As I've been starting my Hoard cleanup, I've been making several related observations where the main problems and obstacles are, and what the first things to clean up should be. This comes from my own experience, but I suspect this is going to be the case for many others. I believe the first and foremost problem and obstacle is clutter, especially clutter accumulations in certain critical areas where you need to work. What is clutter? Clutter is simply the accumulation of assorted items that are not where they should be, not the way they should be, especially those confusing items for which it's not exactly obvious where to put them and what should be done about them. If you're familiar with David Allen, GTD, Getting Things Done philosophy, then clutter corresponds to stuff, to those items requiring some sort of processing, those that belong in the inbox. When it comes to the hoard and bad clutter developing, it's simply these inbox items, unclear items, in need of some sort of processing, decision making, and handling, that's spilling over into all areas of the place. Areas where you work, areas where you walk, where you do anything, where you enter. Did you notice how stuff accumulates near entrances? And even those areas which you simply pass by, the passages, around passages. In other words, it's inbox contents spilling all over the place, over all available surfaces. Clutter is distracting because all of these items are in some way incomplete and demanding attention, and yet attention is not available to be given, yet they consume it anyway. If you're familiar with the literature on hoarding, there's this term, clutter blindness, that denotes the automatic habit of ignoring accumulations of clutter that develops with time as you become numb to these accumulations. But I believe even where clutter blindness is taking effect, clutter still consumes your mental energy, your attention in subtle ways. It's still taking up mental cycles to affect this clutter blindness. It's not for free. Another problem with the clutter is that it becomes an obstacle to using these areas, these facilities, these surfaces, desks, sinks, counters. They quickly become consumed by clutter, the clutteritis, the consumption of all surfaces by clutter. It prevents you from moving objects on top of which it sits, from accessing containers if it sits on top of containers, from using tables and shelves properly if it accumulates on those surfaces. So considering all these effects, clutter is the main obstacle and problem. As such, it should be among the first priorities to be dealt with, to clean up. Another related observation I've made as I was starting my cleanup is that the hoard itself is distracting. What is the hoard? The hoard is simply an accumulation of stuff, much of which is similarly of incomplete and unclear nature, poorly organized, congested, and often richly covered in surface clutter. In other words, it's the inbox contents spilling all over the place. Again, the entire hoard is to a large part like that. I noticed that as I was getting something or putting something away or just going somewhere to do something, I was often getting distracted by one thing or another along the way, and often even forgetting the original intention. I believe this to be a big part of the problem. You might suggest that I have an attention problem, that my attention is vulnerable to this sort of distraction, which may well be the case. But I suggest that it's also inherent in this setup, that due to this overflow of clutter, and much of the Hoard contents themselves being of similar nature, of being incomplete objects and open loops in need of some sort of processing and handling, that this is an inherent risk that your attention is going to become jeopardized when you're in contact with the Hoard. Clutter is insidious. It just sits there and quietly drains your attention, so your attention suffers the death of 1,000 cuts, destroying your productivity. This may be difficult to notice, as one must be paying attention, and one's attention may well be critically jeopardized due to these very same effects. Clutter is also difficult to deal with. If these things were easy and obvious to dispatch, we would have done it already. There is something non-obvious, unclear, or missing about most of these items that requires special dedicated attention to deal with. And there may be hundreds or thousands of these within line of sight. I noticed several hot zones where clutter was accumulating. These correspond to where most activity happens. For me, it was my work desk, near the entrances, near the utility sink where stuff was being washed, and around passages and intersections where I walked. Incidentally, these places are also what I consider critical areas that are needed regularly to get on with daily tasks. Clutter is dangerous. Don't take it lightly. If you move clutter, it's still clutter. If you put clutter in a box, it's still a box full of clutter. A box full of unclear, difficult to deal with items, so this box is still a can being kicked down the road. It's for these reasons that I say clutter is the public enemy number one. And I've made cleaning it up a major priority for my own cleanup operation, especially in critical areas where work needs to happen. Processing clutter might warrant a separate discussion. I expect I'll be posting separately on this subject as I work and introspect and make headway with my own cleanup. In a nutshell, I believe this requires putting these things in the spotlight and giving them first-rate attention, temporarily, just enough to determine exactly what needs to be done with each item, what was keeping it stuck, what needs to be done to move it along. I believe it's best to start confronting these items and dealing with them head-on, one at a time, so multiple items don't gang up on you, and also with a view towards establishing standard procedures for dealing with entire types of items commonly recurring in your particular environment. So next time you encounter a similar item, you can just repeat the handling without having to repeat the entire thinking exercise. That's it. Bye for now.